Welcome back, fishing friends, to the worldwide headquarters of the Pinhook Fishing Club. Alright, so, just got word. No school tomorrow. We had no school today, we had no school yesterday. So, I figured I'd go ahead and get a video out, crank some stuff out here with that, and talk about some tackle, maybe another story from school. Hey, take a look at this. I just made a whole bunch of these. It's got a little tungsten ball head on there. It's a little bladed jig crappie setup, and I've been experimenting with these, catching quite a few. This is one of these drifter minnows from net bait. It's got that bait feel in it. Man, these work great on there. And I also have some Kitex that are rigged up here. And let's see. Oh, that's pretty much it. Oh, I've got like a Charlie Brewer rigged up on one of those 3-inch grubs. So yeah, that's what I've been working on. I'm gonna test those out. Let me get this out of the way. So last night I had a lot of fun because the fellows over at Smallmouth Crusher doing their auction, and I got some stuff, but the topic came up about the beetle spin. And guys, I'm telling you, the beetle spin, people joke about it because it's like a little cheapy bait you can get at Walmart or wherever. The thing catches fish, lots of fish, big fish. I mean, you've seen in my videos where I've caught some really nice ones. Let me show you real quick. This is my little, they're all crammed in here. I know. This is my little beetle spin box. And I've got all kinds of stuff on here. Yep. This catches them. I'm probably giving away some juice here. This will catch them. This will catch them with these little Lake Fork, little mini live magic shads. Oh man, guys. It's incredible the stuff that you can pull in with just a simple beetle spin. Little grub from Charlie Brewer's. I get my grubs from there and from Kaylin's. So I've got all these different things rigged up. This little Arky solid tube with a, what is it, a Bobby Garland jig head on there. What else? Actually, I have a beetle spin. Got some little MEPs, my little modified MEPs. But for the beetle spin type stuff, twin tail grubs. You don't have to just fish what it comes with in the pack, guys. I mean, this summer, I was whacking them on these little hair jigs. And probably my favorite, and there'll be some juice on this, is the Heine series from Arky. Man, these things just wreck fish. I mean, crappie, bass. These things are great. A lot of times you don't see me fishing with these because I try to keep a lid on it, but we're snowed in, sharing some info here. But just get a little, one of these little two-sided Plano boxes and get them going. But anyway, we were talking about this yesterday, that GLF, that the minnows that they've got, what is it, the drop minnow, and what is it, the drop kick shad? Let me look this up. Drop minnow. Let's see. That's a problem when you start getting old. And the thing is, I know Dan and the dudes there I shouldn't be forgetting these. Let's see what we got. Drop kick shad. I knew it. And it's the drop minnow. How did I not remember that? And we were talking about it last night. This guy right here is a killer on one. In this color. I can't remember this color, but it works great. The drop minnow, Epic Eric was talking about that, and Travis were talking about that. Man, that thing is just deadly. That drop minnow on a beetle spin. Poof. But then I've got some unusual stuff, like a little goby. So with this, and this is the thing with that I have a lot of success with throwing the beetle spin. A lot of times I'll just let it sit on the bottom and just twitch it and drag it, and the blade will be flopping around. And you'd think it would bother them, but it doesn't. They'll swim up and look right at it, and as soon as you start to crank, bam. But I let it sit there. What is this from Cream? One of these little fishies or whatever. These things are deadly. They look good in there. So there's a lot of different ways I rig this up. And I'll even put bigger stuff on there. For example, Lunker City with these big fat grubs. This thing is money right here. I've got huge crappie on that, bass. So you just play with it. You'll come up with different combos. And then for a lot of different setups, the Hot Shot Minnow from X Zone is just so pro. I use this on my little modified MEPS. You could just put on a little jig head like this, swim it around, bounce it around, rig it on the beetle spin, and it catches fish. Something about how supple it is. It's really supple. It's perfect for it. And then this one catches fish all the time for me. It's a Charlie Brewer. I think I kept saying Charlie Slider. I think that's what I was saying. Anyway, Charlie Brewer, their 4-inch grub. Man, this thing is nice. Look at that profile in there. And when it's wiggling, I've caught big crappie and bass on it. So don't fall asleep on a beetle spin. Even big, heavy, fat stuff like this gets crushed. What is this? The Juggle, maybe, from 6 Cents. I know it's a 6 Cents product. But then you can even get them on smaller sized items. All right, so if the fit, especially now in the wintertime, here's another Cream little lure right here. I can't remember what they call this, a little shad. This thing works great. Who's texting me? Who is that? Come on, get out of there. Is this our official cancellation? Yep. Yep, our official cancellation for tomorrow. Okay, I'm losing my train of thought now. Okay, this is the thing. When the fishing gets really tough, there's two that I use to get me out of trouble. It'll always be a MEPS. Traditional, modified rigged. It'll come in clutch. The other one is the beetle spin. If I gotta catch something, the beetle spin, and then just a regular spinner bait, full size or smaller size. I've got some smaller ones that aren't in the beetle spin size. They're like medium sized. Those will catch them. But I've got my box here of some jigs that I've tied that I put on the beetle spin. This is all hair in here. A lot of hair. A lot of these come from I'll show you this in just a minute. A lot of these come from Arky. Not this particular one, but look at that hair when this thing's in the water. But a whole bunch of these come from Arky. From that Heine series. And I've got a ton of smallmouth on this big one. And this big one, you'll see for sale that's like super cheap. It's in this funky monkey color, I think is what they call it. This one right here is money. Oops, I'm probably banging into the camera and making racket there. This purple one's money. Look at the tinsel on that. And then I've got a whole bunch of hair jigs that I've tied that are money. Which I already showed you guys. These are bucktail and hair. So, here's one of these solid tubes from Arky. Anyway, so that's what I hook into the beetle spins. These guys that I make are absolutely deadly. This olive, this craft hair olive on top with the white on the bottom. What on earth did I knock over here? Look at all this stuff falling over. What is all this? Super glue? Yep. Kind of like when I do live. I hadn't done live since last year. It's just too much to get it rolling. If you could fire it up and get your camera angle set without constantly having to do this, play with that, I'd do more of it. All right, one last thing. Let's get this big box in here. This one's gonna hit the camera. Okay, guys. Here's I'll show you this. More stuff for the beetle spin. We got big stuff. We got little stuff. Extra blades. These are the soft plastics. Here are the drop minnows. And this little drop minnow's got like a little collar I put on there. A whole bunch of Bobby Garlands, twin tails. Bunker City grubs. These are these, what do they call these kamikaze swim-ons? Those work great. Anyway, so there we go. You're probably getting a shot of my stomach. Here's a whole bunch more of the drifter or the drop minnows. These are the ones that work great. Spark shads. So these little Bass Pro Shop bluegill grubs, those work well. Ton of Charlie Brewer stuff. So there you go. That's a soft plastics box dedicated mostly to the beetle spin setup. I use it for different things too, but mostly for the beetle spin setup. And you know, you think, oh man, that's too much stuff. Really, it's not that expensive to get. A lot of stuff I can find on eBay, and of course, the crew over at Charlie Brewer, man, they always have great deals, and I talk with them quite a bit, so they usually help me out with a lot of stuff. All right, let's get to tying a jig, and let me get situated here. I've got this chair all the way down, so it's super shorty. All right, we've been using these Fusion 19s. Normally, I'm using the Northland Tackle Smeltinator jigs. And you'd think, hey man, that's not really what that's for. But you know what? I have a lot of success with these type of jig heads tying my hair jigs. But yeah, so it was fun watching the guys last night. I got some stuff in the auction and they were talking about the beetle spin, and I was like, hey, that's no joke. But If you've never been over there, go check it out. And then I saw the Zaldane's podcast. I don't really comment on that type of stuff, that kind of serious stuff, but it was eye-opening for me. I was stunned at what I learned about how things go with contracts and all that with them. So you'll just have to go watch it. And the other cool thing was when I watched BTL this morning, it was live stream, and Austin Cranford was out there. He was trying to catch a fish so somebody could win some sunline. He did fantastic. Pretty cool with the setup. And then Frank Scalish jumped in. They're like, man, drop down to a smaller size minnow. And you just had to have been there to see it. It was pretty cool. But he's going to go far in the elites because he's got that camera presence. He doesn't mind talking to people. He's got a personality. He's not saying, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Well, I don't know all the time. He speaks to the camera. He's got a great presence, and he's going to do just fine. All right. What are we tying today? I got a special request for a purple special. All right, guys. So, I got a whole bunch of these stories. Now, when I tell these stories, it's not for clickbait or anything like that, because I don't do this to make a living. I'm happy the channel is growing and you guys help me out with views and things, but honestly, I do it because I want to remember some of these stories, these crazy things from when I was teaching. And that's why I make a lot of the fishing videos so I can go back and watch them one day. So, and I watch them now when I'm, to get ready when I'm going back to my spots. Somebody was telling me I need to do some online tournaments. I don't know, guys. I got to think about that. All right. So, a big story. You know how in the old days everyone would talk about swirlies, somebody get a swirly in the bathroom and all that kind of stuff? Well, a lot of that to me was just stupid stuff. I was like, man, nobody ever tries to do that in school. It's just a dumb thing. All right, guys, I know this one's going to look weird because this is like craft wool, but trust me, it's going to come out looking good. Anyway, so I actually came across a swirly situation. And I couldn't believe it. When I got home, I was like, I guess people still try to do it. I remember it just like yesterday. So it was during my conference period, and I had to go down to the front office to pick something up. And I'm heading down the hallway, and the restroom is... I got too much line out here. This is going to look like chaos, but oh well. I was sitting here pulling line out because I was about to tie off. Anyway, so I was heading down the hallway, and I was going by the boys' restroom, and I hear just a bunch of ruckus. And then I heard somebody just, I don't want to say squealing, but in a high-pitched voice, leave me alone, knock it off. And then they got serious, and they were like, stop it. So I go into the restroom, and I look in the very far end where the stall is. It looked like a bull at a rodeo shoe, bang, 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 banging around in there. And I saw 2 feet sticking up like this, wiggling up above the stall. And I yelled, what are y'all doing in there? And then everyone just like freaked. And then they brought the kid down. So they came out, and I said, what are y'all doing? And the kid's name, let me see, Russell. Russell says, they were trying to flush me down the toilet. And I said, why? Well, what's the deal here? And then I knew the boys, there were 3 of them, and they were all in athletics. They were good guys. All of the boys were in athletics. 3 of them, they were like upstanding good kids. And they're like, well, he keeps teasing us, driving us nuts and bothering us. And we figured we got to teach him a lesson. And we all came into the restroom, and he's splashing water out of the sink on us. And so we got sick of it. So we're going to give him a swirly. And I said, well, That's not the right way to handle that, you know. And anyway, so I gave him a lecture. So Russell is like trying to run out and leave. He's wanting to get out of there. And I'm like, no, we're going to go down to the office and get this sorted out. Even better, we're not going to go to the office. We're just going to go to where the coaches are. Because the coaches would definitely want to, know if something like that's going on. So we head down there, and they're all like, but we got a math quiz and this and that. I'm like, you know what? Too bad. All right, guys, I'm just trimming this up a little. There we go. So anyway, we get down there and I let the coaches know what happened, and they were, they said they'd handle it and take care of it. But that was the only time that I ever had a situation where I saw a kid was going to get a swirly. All right, let me get some glue on this. And you know what? If I hadn't come down the hallway, they probably would have. Because it was like right when they picked him up. And they were trying to shove his head in there. And he was wiggling up a storm trying to get out of it. All right, guys. I know this looks iffy now. But trust me, when it's in the water, it's going to look good. It's almost like that streamer hair that you use. I've got some purple in there. He's got to thin it out a little bit more. Oops. I may have to retie that. Yikes. How did that one come undone? I pulled it right out of there. Sheesh. All right. Back to the drawing board. See? I'm not a pro at this. Everybody makes mistakes, is what they'll say. Plus, I'm fumbling around. I was trying to shovel snow today, guys. It was more like shoveling ice. And my hands are just wrecked from doing that. Now, what was the deal with this? Right there. Mistakes were made. Anyway, so the coaches took care of what happened with the boys, but I forgot about that story until I was thinking about it. Because what happens is that people always ask me, do kids still do this? Put a kick me sign on people? And nah, you don't really see that. Do they still try to do swirlies? And see, the other thing is people don't realize is the kids don't use lockers anymore. Unless you're in the know about school or your kids go to school. So a lot of that pranks on lockers and all kinds of goofball stuff just doesn't happen anymore. So I say this all the time, guys. My generation was the best generation to grow up in. Back into the 70s, into the 80s. 90s weren't too bad. That's when the stuff really, I think, started to turn for, I don't want to say the worst, but just out of the golden age. All right, we got this one. Trust me, it's going to look good in the water. It's got the flash right here. It must be like, what kind of a jig? It works. Somehow when this gets wet and it's just poof, poof in the water. All right, we got one. All right, guys. So I got a tough decision to make here. Should I leave you guys hanging for the urine story? Or should I just go ahead and tell it? I'll just go ahead and tell it. I got nothing else to do. We don't have school tomorrow. So, this is way back when I first started teaching. And it was a pretty cool school. Inner city school, but It wasn't like inner city, like crazy. I mean, there was some crazy stuff, but I mean, it was a good school. I had a lot of fun there. It was just, typical junior high. This is when I was teaching 8th graders. So, anyway, pretty sure it was my last year there before I moved into a different school, but this story was pretty crazy. So, we, during that time, we did have lockers. So the kids had lockers. They had typical, what you would say, school. They'd have their 8 periods. Well, during a passing period, the kids want to hang out at a locker. Well, I was standing there watching the kids in the hall, and I was talking to a couple of them. They were getting ready for track was coming up, track season, and we were going to do pretty well. My school was one of the dominant junior highs. But anyway, things got pretty crazy. I don't know, this is so weird. All right, so there was a kid, his nickname was Bell. I don't know what the deal was with it, but that was his nickname. Wasn't even his last name. Everybody just called him Bell. So all of a sudden, he just starts shoving this dude into the locker, and he was like furious. He cussed up a storm. I mean, he was going to just punch his kid. And I said, "Hey, knock it off. Come over here. What's the problem?" So there were 2 other dudes, and they like skedaddled, which is the thing. You can never get away in the school because we already know who you are. So I was like, don't worry about them. We'll catch up to them. We'll figure out, what their involvement is. So I asked Bella, I said, what happened that got you all fired up like that? And so the kid standing next to him was like looking at him, glaring at him, as if you're not going to say anything. Or you're going to, you say anything, you're going to get it. So I looked at that kid and I said, don't try to intimidate him from telling the truth. I was like, it's not going to work. I've been teaching too long. I know, and really I hadn't been teaching long at all. I was like, that's not going to work. If he's got to tell something, he's going to tell it. There's nothing you can do about it. And if you try to do something about it, you're going to get in trouble. Because we had a liaison officer on campus. Said if you do something about it, you're going to get a citation or whatever. So he's all bent out of shape, about, he didn't say anything. So this kid Bell tells me, he said, well, I went up to talk to them at the locker and he squirted me in the face. And I was thinking, well, yeah, I could see why that gets you upset. And he said, no, but you don't understand. The squirt bottle, he peed in it. There was pee in the squirt bottle. And I was like, what? So then my alert system hits high alert, DEFCON 4, whatever you want to call it. Like, this is turned serious. Because that, squirting in with a water bottle is an assault anyway. People they'll try to tell you all day long, that's not an assault. It is, because you're using a liquid. Now, if you're using a bodily fluid, that for one thing, that's just nasty. So I said, all right, what classes you got next? And they're like, I'm going to so-and-so, I'm going to so-and-so. I said, okay, well, you're just going to wait here. So I got a hold of the administrators, and our liaison officer came down. Anytime something like that, he'd come down. And so I had to teach a class, and I didn't have time to goof around with this situation here. So the administrators come down, because you have one for 7th grade, you have one for 8th grade, and then you have the principal. Well, the head principal, he came down with the 8th grade principal, because I was like serious. I said, you guys need to get down here. There's a situation that is extremely odd. So then the kids told them, they got the spray bottle out of the locker. Sure enough, it was like one of those ones you can get at a chain store, little squirt deal, like people put water in it to, spritz up their hair. But he like peed in it. And he did it in the restroom. Just filled it up, And then I'm not sure, but I think his friend peed in there too, because it was like almost full, unless they mixed it with water. So the officer, and this dude is a big dude. He was like 6'4", became a detective later. Just a great guy to talk to at school about all kinds of stuff. Anyway, he's retired now, but he was a great liaison officer. Anyway, so he gets the bottle. The principal's all right, gentlemen, let's go. So they go down to the office. The kid's going to get expelled, for like 60 days. He'd already been in trouble that year, so he had a 30-day expulsion. Anyway, it goes on. And then kid Bell writes a statement down. So they've got it on record, and then he goes back to class. Well, the next day, come to find out, his dad came up to the school and wanted to press charges on the kid that squirted him. I mean, the dad knew, he was well aware of the whole legal system and stuff. And so he talked to our administrator, and then the officer, and they're like, well, they're getting expelled. He's like, no, I want to press charges so he knows never to do this kind of stuff to anybody again. So they're like, all right, you're going to fill out this paperwork. And then, became a situation like that. But they'd already had statements down from the kids. And I'm not sure if they had asked him, if they asked Bell when they were getting the story, I don't think they mentioned it. I think it was just his dad was like, man, we're going to press charges. So, man, this one turned out nice. Look at that. Got the tinsel. Not too much. I'm making these for a friend of mine, but I want to keep this one. See how it fluffs up? A couple of hairs come out, but that's always the case. I'm not going to tell you what sneaky substance I use to make these. You can figure it out. But, guys, these are for smallmouth up in Iowa. Just killers. You can bounce them along in the river. I use the 3/8 on these because you have current. And you can swim them. So a lot of times, and it's all rock in there. So I'll let it sit on the bottom, drag it a little bit, and then I'll just jerk it straight up. And it's always getting hit. Man, I love making these. Anyway, all right, so that was pretty much it. The kid got busted, and I never saw him the rest of the school year. I mean, he was gone. I'm sure they sent him to the juvenile detention center after that. I'm surprised that he didn't get arrested, right there. But in a school, there's a little bit of leeway there because the school will take the lead with some of the discipline there, unless it's like a flat-out fight or some kind of crazy chaos. But, everyone has to work together to get the stuff, sorted out. I've been down in the office with 2 sets of parents, got into a fight. That was bad. So yeah, I've seen a couple of times where people have been arrested on campus, but I got to save those for another time. But anyway, and they weren't necessarily kids either. So I'll have to share that one story next time about this, one of the weirdest situations I'd ever seen. But anyway, so let that sink in. He had a squirt bottle. Don't anybody ever try it. Don't even get into your head to try to do something like that. Terrible. You didn't get that idea from here. You didn't get that idea from me. It's just something I saw. I mean, it was horrible. And get this, guys, this is a detail. So when the kid came up to the locker to talk to him, he squirted him in the face with it. So got in his eyes and it got in his mouth. And he just wiped it off and was kind of like, hey, what are you doing? Well, his dad got when he told the story what happened, his dad was like, hell no. We're not dealing with that, with getting in your eyes, in your face, in your mouth. So that's where it all blew up. But, the school took care of it, then the legal process. But one day when I write my book about all the things that have gone on in school, I can come back, watch a video like this. There's a lot of stuff I'll kind of write down to remember too, but it was just absolute crazy. So there's 2 times where there's been some crazy stuff going on in the school. One that you didn't really necessarily, it was like one of those old school deals, giving somebody a swirly. Well, now, after that, I actually got to see one almost done, but it was like, still one of those things that could come up once in a while. And this other one, I'm telling you guys, it was, I drove home thinking, what is the matter with people that they're doing stuff like that? Crazy. Anyway, all right. So we got a couple jigs tied. This one right here. And this one, which everyone's going to have concerns about, don't have a concern about it. When it gets down in the water, it's going to look good. It's just all fuzzed up now. This one's kind of like a craft hair. This one is animal hair of some sort. Can't give it away. Anyway, all right, guys, thanks for hanging out with me during this. I'm going crazy because of this snow stuff. We all want snow days, but then when you're kind of stuck. I didn't try to drive anywhere. I've been sorting tackle, working on tackle, looking through all this stuff, going through all of it, and painting lures, kind of going through, touching them up, switching hooks out on different things. Filled a big bucket up with sinking lures in them, trying to see what their buoyancy was. All kinds of stuff. I've been working on that. But anyway, so just to recap, if you've never seen any of these smallmouth crush auctions, there may be one Monday night. There may be a follow-up, or for sure next year. That means you got to follow the channel to get the good info on that. I know those guys, and they do a terrific job with the show. Thursday night, Bass After Dark. Tune into that. Watch that. A lot of great participation in there. A lot of great guests. Go watch Byron Velvick's Fishtails on the Livingston Lures podcast. Great stuff there. And then Bass Talk Live. That was phenomenal today. The live streaming of him catching fish out there in that crazy weather. And then Frank Scalish jumping in, you know, chiming in. And a bunch of the guys we know from the chats were in there. Some cool dudes in there. And then the bilge with Trait and Zaldane in there doing their little talk with this lady. Chris and Trait were, I mean, they learned quite a bit. I learned quite a bit about all of this stuff that's going on, that could possibly go on. So go check those out. So as always, thanks for hanging out with me. And until next time, I'll see you then, guys. Hopefully I'll get back to where I can get on the water, make some stuff. I've got some videos already preloaded, but I need to make some more. I've got so many lures I want to test out, different combinations of stuff. I've been on this Bomber Long A tweaking lures and things. I've been on these flat sides I've been throwing. Just a whole bunch of different stuff going on there. And, big jerk baits. So I'm telling you guys right now, Bomber, Smithwick, the Bill Lewis scope stick that a lot of people are like, that thing catches fish. Smalley Magic Color. My Duo Realis, my Shimano World Minnow, the Booyah Flashpoint, all of those I've been having so much fun throwing. And I picked up a couple more from Travis in that auction. It's these Berkeley Finishers that has that line tie like up on top. And that thing, you just pop it all the time and it's going everywhere. Kind of reminds me of when I would fish the jig and wrap. I'd toss that around. But so I'm going to be testing that out. So I've been having so much fun with tackle this winter. And anyway, all right. Thanks for hanging out with me. Until next time, I'll see you guys then. And stay warm out there. Hopefully you guys can get to some open water and do some fishing. All right. Bye-bye. Now get out there and get your lures wet.